CPQ systems, good ones, create value for a business. Efficiency and automation allows more quotes faster. Clearer policies and guidance means that those quotes getting faster to your customers are more successful. And clear pricing guidance for sellers means that the right price hits the mark more often. All of this combines to, in our experience, an incremental 0.3 to 4% increase in revenue, just by changing processes. I certainly see this as a huge win for many businesses. But why Vendavo CPQ? Well, we think that Vendavo CPQ leads the market in three key areas. The first is its ease of use. Configuration and interaction is based on a clicks, not code philosophy. It means that the vast majority of the system can be configured and interacted with by non-super users. You don't need to be a programmer or a master statistician to use the solution. The ease of use is intended to make the pricing journey easy, aiding and enhancing adoption, which is key to that incremental revenue growth that we already discussed. And finally, the solution is built with good pricing in mind, matching customer willingness to pay with the right price, capturing incremental value and driving growth and revenue. So let's have a little bit of a look at how Vendavo CPQ does that. So I'm going to take you through two key use cases in the solution today. The first is standard CPQ functionality, like we discussed, but of course with Vendavo's unique spin on price and profitability. The second is agreement management, and we'll highlight some of our unique capabilities around mass agreement changes, giving you flexibility and dexterity, which I think in today's market is really key. So let's get started with CPQ. So again, I'm going to touch on three pieces here. Firstly, how our product selection makes selling easier. Secondly, how guidance and policies can be flexibly enforced to create clarity around your business requirements. And then thirdly, how generating professional proposals can ensure that you win the bid. Let's get into that solution proper. So I'm playing the part here of maybe an experienced account manager for a medical devices company. I've got three things to do. I want to check what strategic sales initiatives might be appropriate for my customer using a guided selling approach. I want to add some specific knee products to this customer's quote. And then I also want to set all of my newly added products proposed in the quote to the suggested target price. So this is my CPQ quote dashboard. I can see all of my current quotes, what's in progress, what's approved, listed out in here. And I'm going to create a copy of my quote so that I can continue editing it. So I've already got a few products set up within this quote, but I want to check what strategic sales products might be worth offering as well. And so I'm going to add in a new configuration here. Vendavo CPQ has two main principles for product selection. If I know what I'm looking for, then it's designed to make it as easy as possible to get straight to those products and get started. Whereas for somebody maybe more inexperienced, or in the case of a very wide or broad product portfolio, or in case of specific sales initiatives, Vendavo CPQ offers a guided selling experience. Each of these product selection processes and sets of products are known as catalogs. You can see a few up here, and I can set up any number of these to fulfill any need that I have within the CPQ system. So let's see what's available in my orthopedics guided selling. Guided selling allows me to define a series of questions. These could be about product needs, applications, or in this case, sales strategies. And I want to build more volume in my existing catalog with this customer. I can see we're highlighting our hips products here as a growth area. So I'm going to select my top tier hip product and add this into that quote. So here the CPQ system is automatically filtered down to these recommended products to sell more of for me. I'll add a few in. Great. So now I've got these potential hip offerings added to the quote as well. I'm going to quickly adjust all of the volumes here to 10 units actually across the range. That mass edit functionality is really key. It allows me to easily change all of the details of one configuration, so I don't have to set everything up individually. Now let's get on to adding those knee products I talked about earlier. So here I know what I'm doing. I know what the customer wants and needs. So rather than going through a guided selling approach, I'll drop straight into the main orthopedics catalog. So as I filter this, the Vendavo CPQ system is trimming the available options, both in the navigation and below in terms of the products, to bring me closer, quicker to what I need. So that means all of this is handled for me using a system of easily configurable rules. There's no programming here, and it's based on the master data that's actually stored in my system. So that means that as new products are added, the Vendavo CPQ system automatically assigns them to the right category, meaning they'll appear ready for me to sell. Now, as I said, I know this is a high-end offering, so I'll go again with our top of the range products here. And let's add 2 of these new products into our quote. Great. That's how simple it is to find the right products, meaning that the quote can get out to the customer quicker, increasing my chances of being the winning bid. Equally, with salespeople able to create more quotes more quickly, it means more opportunities can be processed. The ability to filter either through drop-downs like we saw there, or a set of guided selling questions, it means that my sales team can work through whichever process they like best to find the right product. So now let's take a look at adding a discount into this quote. I don't know exactly what the customer wants. So first, I'm going to take a look at my target guidance. Then I'm going to look at what other customers have paid for these products and what the customer is buying. And finally, I'll adjust the discounts across the portfolio. Let's take a look at this first hit product here. So I can see my stretch, target, and floor pricing for this product. I can see the target guidance also here on my main page on the left. And I've also got the information of the previous price paid for this product by this customer. If I'm happy with the target price, I can just accept that. So let's do that across these hit products now. And I can also see a really nice visual representation of not only the whole deal's comparison to the target pricing, but also each individual line's guidance in terms of red, yellow, and green, and where my pricing sits versus this. As well as this, I do actually have a full view of the price waterfall as well for this product. This one's pretty simple, but depending on my needs, I could add in any component here, like rebates, freight, or others. If I want to dig in even further, I also have the ability to use in-depth linked analytics on each product and customer. So if I drop through here, this takes me straight into a scatter chart showing what other customers have paid for these products at various quantities, so I know exactly how my market is working. My other option is a summary of my selected customer, UPM in this case, giving a view of what they've bought, as well as further analytics like their price waterfall, their margin trend, or margin variation. The guidance means that I've got everything I need at my fingertips to make decisions about this quote without having to flip around between different systems. It can be customized too, with more analysis added as needed or removed to keep the process and the information crisp. So I know the market's moved a lot lately, and I'm going to need to be sharper with the pricing on these new products here. So let's add some manual discounts here. Okay, so this has triggered an approval chain now. Let's check why. So I can see that I'll need approval here from my VP because the discount is below floor. If I wanted to move ahead here, the CPQ system will send them an email and handle all of that approval flow automatically. I think maybe this is a little bit too cheeky, so let's pare that back a little bit. Great. Okay, so now I don't need approval and I'm ready to submit the quote. Anything can trigger an approval chain within Vendavo CPQ. It could be the volume of products, discount percentages, absolute prices, or product combinations even. If I can think of it, it can be used to trigger an approval chain. And that can be at a single level, like in this case to a VP, or I could have multiple levels triggered at different thresholds to ensure that my business is being run as intended. Adjusting discounts and understanding price guidance is easy within Vendavo CPQ. It's clear to me as a sales manager why things require approvals and what that approval flow will be. The clarity makes it easy to understand what's happening within the system, and it encourages me to make good decisions as a sales manager. All of this, in the end, combines to increase the revenue and margin that I and my business are making. So now I'm going to submit my finalized quote. Once I've done that, I'll generate a proposal for the customer. And finally, I'll review that proposal and make sure it's meeting my and my customer's needs. So once a quote is approved, Vendavo CPQ makes it easy for me to provide documentation too. So this is a pretty good example of a customized proposal within my CPQ system. And this will generate a PDF with a custom cover page, the quote, and my terms and conditions as well. I could download that, email it, save it to my CRM system, or even send it straight to DocuSign. But what I'm going to do here is just download that quote and take a look. So I can see here I've got my custom branding. I've got a breakdown of what was quoted with the discount percentages visible to the customer, making the value that they have to me clear. And I've got my terms and conditions here at the end as well. So I've got everything that I need to send this straight to the customer. These proposals can be customized to fit my requirements and produce a PDF, a Word doc, Excel, pretty much anything I can think of. This ability to generate a quote super quickly and push that to the customer looking its best makes the whole process flow more smoothly. Again, improving the speed to quote and the professionalism of that quote makes it more likely that my product is selected. The CPQ system can provide quotes in almost any format I desire. Let's take a look at that next use case, agreements. So now we're going to take a look at the agreement and contract piece of Vendavo CPQ. We're going to look at how you can use your configured business structure to create agreements. We're going to understand how history and versioning keeps you on top of your business's movements. And we're also going to look at how mass agreement changes can add flexibility and agility. Let's get going. So here I'm acting more as a pricing manager. I need to create a new agreement for one of our customers after a successful negotiation by the sales team. And then I want to make my quarterly update for my agreement pricing on the basis of the PPI index, as per my contract terms. Rather than the quote environment, I'm working within the agreement framework in Vendavo CPQ. So I'm going to create that new price agreement. And I'm going to do this for a specific customer here. Now, I could instead do this for a customer group. These are really easy to set up, and it means that I can manage sets of customers through agreements in Vendavo CPQ quickly and simply as well. But I really want to focus on this group hospitalier customer. I'll run this for the whole year. And what you're about to see is that the same straightforward functionality we use to create quotes within the CPQ system is leveraged to create the agreements. That means that everything's familiar, it's quick to navigate, and I want this sales accelerator to take effect on a particular subgroup of our medical closure products. So let's focus down on closures, and I'll add all of these to my agreement. So let's edit these so we've got a little bit more of a reasonable quantity. And I want to run a selection of discounts across this portfolio over the next 12 months. The idea being that this will, of course, help speed up sales to Centre Hospitalier. And I'll save this quote, this agreement for later. So I can come back and submit this to make it active if I want to, but I want to double check the details with my sales colleagues first. Vendavo CPQ can have the same dynamic custom approval flow that we had for agreements as well as price quotes, meaning that I've got the flexibility to control my business however I think is appropriate. The speed with which we're able to create agreements using the same structure for product selection means my portfolio is familiar and it's easy to navigate. Control structures ensure that only the activity that I want to go ahead is approved, And alongside this speed, it means that I can use these more frequently to reward and improve customer behavior. Ultimately, again, this results in more revenue and margin for my company. So I'm going to submit this agreement now so that it's live in the system. Let's just drop back into that agreement. And there we go. So this is now ready for me to generate a proposal. But I've just seen an email from my colleague. Turns out that 10% discount isn't going to cut it. We need to up it. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to generate a new revision for this existing promotional discount agreement. All I'm doing here is using exactly the same interface to update my discount as requested. That was pretty speedy. So now we should capture that revenue. I've also, most importantly, got the ability to see all of those previous revisions so that I can understand what's happened in the past. These are stored as touch points in time so that I can understand what's happened previously. This is particularly helpful when multiple colleagues are working across a large set of agreements or managing a large customer. And it's a huge improvement on what I've seen in the past, which had no linking of previous agreements to new agreements. It meant you had to search, really thoroughly to make sure that you hadn't missed anything that had happened in the past. History in Vendavo CPQ is tracked both in terms of revisions, change management, and approval workflow. I know who's changed what, from what, and why and when that's happened. Without accountability, you just have a wild west of price agreements and a lack of understanding as to why they've been approved or declined. This improves accountability to my senior leadership team, and it also means that jungle knowledge of what happened in the past with various accounts is all contained within the solution, easy to interpret and understand. Finally, let's take a look at mass agreement changes rather. Now this is handled in a separate module within Vendavo CPQ, and this is by design. The intent here is to ensure that this capability can be made available only to those who really need it. For example, maybe I don't want a junior sales colleague to be able to change all the agreements in my CPQ system, or more junior pricing managers. Mass agreement changes within Vendavo CPQ are handled as events. So I like to think of this as a single point in time, a change event. I'm making a change here that I make every quarter. I'm increasing my price agreements along with my distributors and direct customers by PPI, modified by a cap. So I can copy last quarter's PPI change and update this. Now, this is a really good opportunity to demonstrate how the logic of Vendavo CPQ works in the background. The functionality that you see here with these Boolean logic rules is the same way that everything is defined. Approval flows, product selection work streams, everything is worked through with this unique click and select rule set. This search is finding all agreements currently in effect in my cardiovascular IR subgroup, as well as excluding any created on a certain day. I want to make sure that anything I've created in the last quarter is excluded from this change. So let's drop this back to July 1st. It's a quarterly adder. I wouldn't want that to apply to brand new contracts. And what you can see, as expected, this reduces the number of agreements that will be affected by this change. Now I don't need to worry about any nasty surprises for my newest customers. Then we come to what changes we'll actually be making. Let's double check what we have here. So for my distributor class customers, I've got contractually limited 3% or PPI, whichever is lower. Whereas for my direct customers, I've got a limit of 5%. Vendavo CPQ allows me to implement these changes and change events with a series of rules, allowing me to define how they take effect within the landscape of the business. PPI is still sky high, so I won't need to make any adjustments here this time. So instead, I can just set the price agreement live. Managing agreements at scale with easy to understand and manipulate logic and settings means that my agreements continue to do what I need them to do, incentivize revenue. It means I can react quicker to changes in the marketplace and capture additional revenue and margin. Intent is beating my competition to the punch. And the reduced time it takes to administer the program means that I have more time to spend on other pricing activities. It might even, save you working at the weekend. Finally, I'd like to talk to you about one of our customers that found some real success with Vendavo CPQ. So GAF had a serious problem with quoting. They're North America's largest and most advanced roofing and waterproofing manufacturer. And they provide roofing solutions for homes, large buildings like office blocks, stadiums. So each of their solutions is custom quoted. But their quoting process was slow, it was sometimes inaccurate, and it was causing real issues with winning quotes at the right price. So they used to drive up to these places, they'd get out the ladders out of the back of the van, they'd climb up onto the roof, write out the spec, they'd bring this back to the office and hand it back over to an internal engineer who would draw up a project plan and hand this over to an internal pricing team. Quotes were taking over a week to come out. We rolled out Vendavo CPQ alongside our deal price guidance solution, and as a result, GAF's process has changed dramatically. Today, they come to a site, they get out a drone, all the salespeople have been trained to use them, they fly that drone over the building, taking pictures, scanning dimensions, and that spec, that design from those scans gets fed straight into Vendavo CPQ. The configuration of the roofing requirements takes place, what do they need, what do they want, and that gets handed to Vendavo Deal Manager for pricing, and out of that, with an approval set up, the approval gets passed to the salesperson who gets an offer that comes out in a consistent and on-brand document. That process takes about half a day. So GF saw quote times fall from 7 days to about 4 working hours on average. And this increased speed resulted in more quotes being won. And the deal price guidance provided to their sellers also saw both incremental value and revenue, as well as more value captured from customers who were willing to pay. The rollout here was so successful, actually, that Richard Reef, their VP of Sales and Customer Support, spoke about it at Vendavo's Commercial Excellence Awards in 2020. So he spoke about how Vendavo CPQ and Vendavo Deal Price Guidance was used to drive automation as well as consistency around their customer-centric approach that was so key. And really, this resulted in a reduction in jungle knowledge. So it leveled the playing field across their sales team versus, from the established salesmen to the new ones.